Your skin, oh yeah, your skin goes turning into something beautiful. You know I love you so much. You know I love you so. Desire, your skin, oh yeah, your skin goes turning into something beautiful. You
So Shabazz was not permitted to stay in that area, so he took his family into the jungle of East Asia, which we now call Africa, to make a people close to nature. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this is the origin of kinky hair, because we didn't have kinky hair prior to that. The hair on our head was like the hair on our eyebrows. The hair on your eyebrow is straight. The hair on your head is not the same as the hair on your eyebrow. But the hair of every other people is the same as their eyebrow. Your eyebrow straight, your hair something different. Wouldn't you like the hair on your head to be as straight as the hair on your eyebrow? That's why you so busy frying it. That's why you so busy pulling it. Because your nature tells you that the kink I mean, you know, with I'm black and I'm proud, we got to learn to be proud of kinks. Because most of your family of other black people on the earth, jet black. They didn't have no broad nose and thick lips and kinky hair. They were dark-skinned people, jet black. But they had straight hair, a thinner lip, a thinner nose. But we are marked as a different kind of black person. And we were rejected and despised, not only from the circle of the gods, but we were despised and rejected by all the other dark people of the earth. This is why today black people with kinky hair and broad nose and thick lips are rejected in every society. I want you to hear me well tonight. Yes, sir. Why are we rejected? Because the essence of beauty is in obedience and submission to God. And the essence of ugliness is when you rebel against God. And when you rebel against God, in your rebellion, you are marked with a certain mark of your rebellion, which is the disfigurement of your internal self, which manifests in the disfigurement of your external self. And this is why when you look at our people, wherever we are found on the earth, you find us either disfiguring ourselves physically because we are disfigured on the inside because of rebellion.
But that's when I kind of heard about him again, like he was doing bootleg screenings. But anyway, feel free, brother Tom.
Okay, I found it, so I'm gonna share my screen if you don't mind.
Course. Yeah, no, of course, brother.
Okay. Share screen.
Now, Donnie Williams wrote, "I'm serious, family. Melanin doesn't prove ethnicity." Okay, well, let's ask biologists. Let's ask Dr. Shekanta Diop wanted to do some melanin dosage tests. So Dr. Shekanta Diop was of the opinion that if you see the level of
okay.
Oh, now we see our hair.
Okay, you see it now?
Yeah, our hair. Yes, we see it.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go down. So you can see where when I first wrote it, and I think August the 14th, 2019, when I put this one out. All right. So we'll just get down to it a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna just read a few pages from it, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all, brother. Feel free.
Okay. All right. This book's main concern will focus on the half of the Ethiopian race called Black people in America and worldwide of the African race, wherever we are found. This should not be such a hotbed of tension, yet it is. By the time you, the reader, complete these pages, you will understand why the self-hate of our hair has been a target by our natural enemies called the white race, also known as white people in America and worldwide, as well as other mankind races who are not African ancestry wherever they are found. Let me explain as shortly as I can. It is no secret that the black race has constantly been attacked for our physical appearance in this country, and our hair has not been spared in these negative events either. Without going too far down memory lane, there has been a few news headlines about corporate America and the school system that has discriminated against African Americans in these cases for what grows naturally on our heads, although there is no federal law against it due to policies in the workplace mixed with personal negative feelings due to human nature and possibly some other forms of racism or ignorance has contributed to much of the discrimination and low self-esteem passed down from slavery. For example, New York City has banned discrimination against people who wear locks, twists, or uncut hair under the Assembly Bill 07797. So if anybody want to go look that up, they can look that particular bill up.
And for the record, there's some cases of people being expelled or punished for having certain hairstyles, like like dreadlocks or different kind of hairstyle. There were news reports about that over the years. But feel free, brother.
Yeah, even in I think during the time I was writing this and going forward, we had a few school teachers. Matter of fact, it was one case where a black guy was supposed to be playing basketball, and his coach wouldn't let him play until he cut his hair, and they actually cut his locks off in the game before he can go.
You know I love you so.
We begin, though, with more fallout over that high school wrestler forced to cut his hair before a wrestling match. Outrage over a decision that many are calling outright racist. ABC's Adrienne Banker joins us now. And Adrienne, an investigation is now underway.
That's right, Amy. Good morning to you. A spokesperson with the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association says all groups and teams have agreed not to assign this referee to any event until further notice.
This morning, there's mounting outrage over this video taken at a New Jersey wrestling match. It shows high school junior Andrew Johnson getting his dreadlocks cut off just before competing. The referee allegedly tells Johnson he would forfeit the match if he didn't submit to the haircut. The young wrestler appears visibly upset as his locks are shorn. A teammate is seen trying to console him. Now the state's Division of Civil Rights is launching an investigation. The video has created a firestorm on social media. Many call the episode racist. Oscar-nominated director Ava DuVernay tweets, "To watch this young man's ordeal wrecked me." New Jersey's governor also weighing in, saying he was deeply disturbed, adding, "No student should have to needlessly choose between his or her identity and playing sports." Olympic wrestling gold medalist Jordan Burroughs says that referees are supposed to meet with both teams about an hour before the competition.
He checks each wrestler on each team to make sure that they're in accordance with whatever rules would apply when they're out there on the mat. And so for him to allow for this wrestler to come to the mat and have his hair cut mat side is something that I've never seen before.
According to the school district superintendent, the referee decided Johnson's hair length and headgear violated regulations. That referee, Alan Maloney, has been benched while state officials investigate the matter. On Facebook, the teen's mother writes, "He is good now, but that was brutal, emotionally and physically." In the end, Johnson won his match in overtime.
Now, according to a report by the Courier Post, Maloney made racial comments toward an African-American referee back in 2016, though Maloney told the paper he did not remember using the offensive word, but believed the accounts of witnesses who told him he said it. The video of this young man having his hair cut has been viewed around 12 million times.
It is hard to watch and hard to imagine there wasn't another option. All right, Adrian.
That was a real big one. A couple of, younger black kids, they did the same thing, cut their hair at school without the parents knowing. And the thing is, this is one of the reasons why I put this book together and tried, to put it out there so our people, when y'all, if you purchase this book and book 2 that I got, it explains the scientific reason why our hair is important and then why we was taught to hate our hair. And this is going to debunk the foolishness that Farrakhan was saying. Number one, they have no proof of Shabazz and the big head scientists and all of that. That's the first foremost thing of that. Secondly, there was no scientific information that they was giving. They was just giving you some stories that they got from somewhere. And anytime you hear them talk about Jacob and all that, and Yakub is another way to say Jacob, you already know that this is religiously inclined, because out of all the names they use, and if you're talking about we went into the jungles, at least according to their doctrine, over 50,000 years ago, prior to I guess 1930, then how the world this Hebrew or Aramaic even exists that far back? So none of that stuff makes sense as far as when you start dealing with languages and things like that. So I'm gonna skip down a little bit more past this little bill with we got California. California has passed the Senate Bill 188 July 3rd, 2019 that makes it harder for employers and schools to discriminate against individuals who do not wear non-European hairstyles. This will go into effect January 1st, 2020. They call it the Crown Act, which makes perfect sense because people's hair is a part of their head and physical appearance. Plus, people wear their hair with pride. Due to me paying attention to society and news in general, has prompted me to educate our children on the importance of who they are regardless of biasness imposed on them, to help them be proud of who they are and how they naturally appear based on their DNA from their parents and racial heritage. All right, so this is where my research took me, and I drew my connection to more information on African culture in general. So what I do know, the Bible is a book that has literal meanings, allegories, stories, metaphysical questions on the nature of the mind, as well as spiritual scientific topics within it. So not wanting to mistake one for the other or take something literal when it is not can be detrimental. So researching on our hair based on science and other philosophies helped me see more than a few quotes could say, in saying that our hair is more than a trend or fashion in the eyes of science. Some of these sciences are called astronomy or geoseismology, trichology, study of hair, astrophysics, and helioseismology, study of the sun's structure. In the latter three scientists have said our sun had flocculi on its surface, as this was discovered by a machine designed by G. Hale and H. D'Alessandro in 1890 called a spectroheliograph. It is this machine that studying in the prominences from the sun from 1892 to 1908 that showed these flocculi and high levels of activity. Prominences are glowing red loop material shooting from our sun. So these are the two scientists that were studying the sun, and they did that when it was I think it was a lunar eclipse, and it allowed them to be able to point their machine at the sun and see the outer side of the sun and get a better view without hurting their eyes.
Hold up, one of them is a Frenchie. Can he be trusted?
Well, based on my information and stuff, it could. This here, it
I'm just
is.
joking. I don't know if you're aware, but you know, this scam cheddar and all that, they label me Frenchy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
because
okay.
it's
Well,
negative.
you know,
Well, you know, so that's why I was making that.
well, he's not part of our race. He's not a he's a part of our race, but not a member. So his other side, you know, he's a racist. And people don't understand that. We get into that another time, but he's a racist. So he's a one-sided racist. I put it like that. So they love to putting misnomers on people. It's amazing. All right, when you look up the etymology of flocculi, it means tuft of wool, as in hair. Here's the definition of flocculus in Merriam-Webster. A tuft of wool has on a plant specifically a mass of hyphofilaments or portion of mycelium of a fungus. New Latin from Latin. One of the smallest masses of tufts make up certain cloud formations. The hair African people have also fallen into this category. Mundane scientists also say the sun has what they call solar filaments, which are also defined as threads of hair or pilots, high appendage. Filaments can be found in wool, animals, plants, protein, and name a few. The sun has ropes of plasma defined as solar rope, flux, or flocculi, or wool in parentheses. All right? So a lot of our people don't know that. When Alfred Unu wrote the Bible interpretation in booklet 1 and 2 of 1967 and 1968, he was mentioning a lot of this stuff, and so it took years for us to get a hold of these books. And once I started doing that research, it just took me into that. But he talked about this all the time. He always said we came from the sun, and even before that. But this is scientific information that these Caucasian men found, and when they put it out, of course, it's in scientific magazines, but they didn't put this in school. You won't find this in no type of books dealing with our people read this stuff. This is information we should have been getting from birth, you know, coming up. And so we don't know our hair is important. So therefore we so easily quick to destroy it. All right, this is the antenna on the sun's surface in mundane terms. The sun also has solenoids or coils with which electricity works through as a superconductor of heat from our sun's flocculi. This is the same as black people's hair and how we generate a lot of heat when we gather to dance, etc. Yet this is not told for public consumption, and it is my duty as a parent to teach our children the real facts of life that include more than just the birds and the bees, and how we are part of the human family do matter and have a place in this world with plenty contributions to date as well as in the past. Before I move on to the final topic, let me add a little more about our sun and African hair. Has scientifically speaking, the sun ejects out energy called coronal mass ejection, CMEs, and they come out in the form of a double helix. The sun's hair and the African people's hair. The helix and solenoid are shaped like a spring coil and spiral like the flocculi, woolly hair of the true stars, the suns, and original hair of the Ethiopian race. Some solenoids can be found among the hair of kinky haired people of today. Solenoid or helix hair evolved into what is today called beady hair, nappy hair, natty hair, woolly hair, and kinky hair. Beady hair is beauty hair, nappy hair is beautiful hair, natty hair is knowledge hair, woolly hair is loving hair, and kinky hair is kingly hair by nature. And this hair makes the Ethiopian race, the African race, unique among the human races and noble. However, noble by nature means you think noble. Note that the word helix comes from the root word helio, and helio means sun. Likewise, the word solenoid is related to the word solar and ennead, and solar means sun and ennead means 9. And these are forces and powers of the Ethiopian race, also called the African race, the black race, and Takenoid race. Also, the noid at the end of solenoid refers to blackness or nor. You can see the word nor, film, from the French, literally black film. That French keep popping up. From Latin, Niger, C, Negro. All right, BT Nord, personal thing regarded with a special aberration from French. Let me bring this up a little bit bigger. I think it's a BT Nord, literally the black beast for sea beast. Nord is from Latin, Niger. In the scientific community, sol, Latin word for sun, and Ennead, meaning nine, is the Greek word created from the ancient Egyptian pantheon of gods, which is ruled by the chief god called Ra. It is a fact that Ra was seen in human form for many reasons. So all this going to some other stuff, but I wanted just to break down that part of the hair texture part that Farrakhan was talking about. Our hair has a connection to the sun, and the sun has wool on its surface, and the scientist is hiding that. And if we don't understand that, this is another reason why they didn't tell us this, because number one, it kills the Bible and what they talk about human beings, and the Caucasian race was here first. Scientifically, that's impossible. It can't be done. So it's a lot of information that we teach from noon science that breaks a lot of this stuff down. Let me see here. Helix hair, Helios, holy, and solar atmosphere. Helix hair or kinky hair is found in cosmetology, is labeled under 4C, which is the tightest of African hair in the hair type system. And these are just different forms of the hair, from straight all the way to the tightest. So most black people.
I'm sorry, brother. Did you say there's wool on the surface of the sun?
Yeah, that's what they calling it, but they using the word flocculi to hide that. That's how they do. That's how they do in the science community. I got other videos.
That's not wool. That's not wool as we know, like that's used for the clothing. Right? That's something else then.
Right, but it's the same texture though, because when they looked at it, they using like wool. It's wool, but it's plasma type wool. But it's wool though. That's what the scientists was saying. But it's still true scientifically, and this is another reason why the black race is our hair has been attacked, because our connection to what it is, and it is connected to Ra or Ray, and we can receive not just energy, but we also receive messages via the sun. And because of that, that's why they made us cut our hair and hate our hair. So when you perm it, dyeing it, you're actually messing with your antennas, because that's what hair is, also an antenna. It's not just meant to cover the skull. And these are just forgotten things that we lost over time. And that's why the guy, like you was reading earlier, making those statements about African people, we lost our reasonability to the point that we don't forgot how we created the pyramids, how we did all those great things. And that goes back to a certain type of reasonability. It's not just losing knowledge or something, because you got a lot of people who don't go to school and know how to fix stuff and not have to go to school for that. That goes into reasonability, or you naturally born intelligent. So we lost that. And that's the problem that people don't understand. So yeah, a lot of this information is, when you really, really have access, you'd be like, okay, I see where it's going. Because a lot of people may say, wow, that's crazy. But really, it's not. You know what I'm saying? But the knowledge is out there. Trust me, they know our connection to nature. And because of that is why they fear us knowing again. And this is why we're constantly getting attacked all over the world. Even if we just drug addicts on the streets, like right now, they just killed another guy in New York on the subway. We constantly being killed, but our race forgot what our origin is. And because we don't remember, that don't mean your enemy don't know. You see what I'm saying? If you was constantly in fear of something, even though you done subdued it for hundreds of years, you know that if we ever realize what we are, who we are, they'll stop it. And this is why people like Farrakhan and all these other people are allowed to stay active, because they're actually contributing to the mental illness and the dumbness of saying that, because he believes again, no facts. He believes what another man told him, that another man told him, who was of the white race, for Muhammad, that y'all have is kinky because of a curse. And all of that came from the Mormons too, because the Mormons teach that our skin and lips and hair is a curse. So that's a problem in itself as well. But we in that cycle now of Ma'at or Ma'at in Libra. In Noon, we call it Libra, and it's short for let it be remembered always, but it also represents that there's a balancing going on in the universe as well. It's on a bigger scale. So, but yeah, that's just one of the books. I just wanted to showcase that because our people need to understand that we are very, very connected to nature if we only knew. Matter of fact, let me read this part right here too. This came out of the same book. This is a book that was written about these guys. What they found on the sun. This comes out. It says, all right. The word holy is from the word helios when read together. Cause we talking about holy, and let me go back up a little bit. All right. What I found interesting is the machine that discovered hair on our sun was called a spectroheliograph. Helio is defined as helio, word forming element meaning sun, from the Greek helios, sun. All right, from the root word sawel, the sun. The Bible is defined word forming elements meaning book, or sometimes Bible, from the Greek biblion, paper scroll, also ordinary from a book as a division of a larger work. Originally a diminutive of biblos, Egyptian papyrus. This is perhaps from Byblos, the Phoenician port from which Egyptian papyrus was exported to Greece. All right. Now, modern Jebel in Lebanon. For since evolution, compare parchment, or the place name might be from the Greek word, which then would be probably of Egyptian origin. Compare Bible, Latin, liber, see library in English book, also ultimately from plant words, end quote. So another thing too, we got to always remember, these people, when they're assigned the names they choose to name things, always give you a clue to what is really going on. Because why would you call it that if it wasn't going into the deeper meaning to where I'm about to go? So I always look at that stuff too, while other people, you know, over here in the conscious community, everything, like you said, they attack the word black. And I went through that too. When I used to deal with the Moors in conversation, they say, oh, the word black is not okay, but white is okay. These words is okay. This other type of words is not. It's like, how do y'all, it don't make no sense. All of it shouldn't be okay if that's the case, but we know better than, like you said earlier, other languages use the word black, and they can never do nothing with you when you say that. And that's simple and plain.
Yeah. Arabic.
Yep. Aswad. There you go.
Sauda. There it is. White. Abyad. So, they need to cut the crap, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're 30 years behind, man.
They are.
If not more.
That's right.
If not more. Actually more. That's just, yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that when you said that. I said, yeah, this is true. All right. The word holy is also from the word helios, and when read together means sun paper or sun pages, being the Bible has paper in it now, and you can hear the sound phonetically papyrus in the word paper, papyrus, papa. My research also revealed more on African hair and the sun's connection. It is a scientific fact our sun has clouds on its surface that the scientists call dark calcium clouds or floccular wool, according to the book The Minute Structure of the Solar Atmosphere by George E. Hale and Ferdinand Ellerman, January 10th, 1916, pages 102 and 103 says this. Astronomy, Hale and Ellerman. It says the minute structure of the solar atmosphere. It said during a total eclipse of the sun, when the light of the disk is completely cut off from the moon, the solar atmosphere is momentarily revealed. The exceedingly faint corona extending millions of miles into space can be seen only at such times, but the more brilliant chromosphere, the comparative shallow atmosphere of luminous gases which completely encircle the sun, and the prominence which rise out of it can be observed on any clear day with the aid of a spectroscope. First applied to this purpose in 1868, the spectrograph has yielded a large store of information regarding the number, distributions, and nature. Nature limb. It is also permitted the observation of certain phenomena of the solar atmosphere and projection against the disk, but on account of the brilliant background, only the general outlines can be thus detected. In order to study their details, we must have recourse. So under here it says, under the picture, it says direct photograph of the sunspots group, scale sun's diameter. All right, reading furthermore. All right, let me make this a little bit bigger for me. All right, it says the atmosphere in 1892, a large number of new phenomena have been brought to light. The spectroheliograph may be briefly described as a moving spectroscope driven at a uniform rate across the solar disk and emitting to the photographic plate through a narrow slit the light of a single spectral line, thus monochromatic images of the solar atmosphere showing the otherwise invisible clouds of hydrogen or of calcium iron region of the solar image. For example, where direct observation shows nothing, or perhaps a group of sunspots, the spectroheliograph may disclose extensive phenomena of great interest in the solar atmosphere. All right. To go down a little further, let me bring this down. It's too big. Hold on. All right. What's next? Okay. It says the structure thus revealed a variation of levels in the solar atmosphere with that of the lower lying photosphere and sunspots. Langley's well-known paper on the minute structure of the solar photosphere, illustrated with its unrivaled drawings, is still our best source of information regarding the structural details of the photosphere and the sunspots. After referring to the spots and faculae, Langley goes on to say, on attentive examination, it is further seen that the surface of the sun everywhere is not absolutely uniform, but is made up of fleecy clouds where outlines are all but indistinguishable under high power use in favorable moments. The surface of any one of these fleecy patches is resolved into a congeries of small, intensely bright bodies in regular distributed, which seems to be suspended in a comparative dark medium. All right, so you're using the word fleecy, and that's also used in when you're dealing with like the wool of sheep and stuff like that. So the words they use are very important and significant. Prominent solar helix and DNA strand. Our sun had also what scientists call prominences, and solar helix was look like a DNA strand. Because this is stuff that they doing. They doing is doctoring up the pictures of the sun. They don't want you to see the actual woolly, because then if we seen those pictures, it would create a whole nother conversation, because their hair is not like that. They don't have woolly hair. They hair is weak and it lays down. It doesn't puff out like the trees on the planet, or these solar filaments, as they call it. Solar helix and DNA strand. All right, moving a little slow. Sorry about that. Okay.
No problem, brother.
Okay. All right. Let me go a little further down. Okay, jump back up a little bit. I'm sorry. All right. All right, so as you can see, also, I use this picture not just because it looks like a DNA strand. It's showing that the sun has these way it coils when it comes off the top of the sun. And they, trust me, they don't show these in regular images. I don't care what movie they showing or cartoon, they never show these type of pictures. And I have to go and look in a lot of other places to find this stuff. That's why I have to study those different sciences of the sun, like astronomers, and they got different levels of that breakdown into that too. All right, our sun has granulation, which means act of forming into grains. Latin granulum or granulate or granular. All right, so now we're getting into the structure of the sun, and this is the stuff that they are saying, but they not push it into the regular domain. You know, like you got to really go into reading scientific journals and stuff like that, and they'll have it there, but not in like regular stuff. They have bull crap for us to see on the main line. Let me see. So we're showing that part of the granule or the granulation. All right, now this is the sun's photosphere. The outer shell of the sun is called a photosphere to mundane scientists. In noon science, it's called a gas field. The layer of heat forms massive ropes of prominence. And this is what they don't show you. So this give you more context, Shaka, right here. The photosphere, because there's so much heat and it's tight, this is ropes. But they don't show you this in movies and stuff. Only people on the planet with natural ropey hair is us. So they call it a photosphere, but they don't want nobody to know that. All right, the figure shows the threads of rope like magnetic cords. You can see these cords emerge from below the photosphere in the form of this prominence shown to the left. If you look carefully, you will see its twists, coils. Field lines are brought together to form tubes of magnetic flux, which becomes twisted by the effects of convection. Bundles of tubes may be wound together in ropes, amplifying further the field strength. When the field strength in the ropes becomes sufficiently great, they float to the surface. Sunspot groups form where kinks, right? Kinky hair, kinks in the rope penetrate the photosphere. The ropes are squeezed together by convection currents. Despite their tendency to push apart, the rapid equatorial rotation distorts lines of force, and convection causes them to twist around. Twist around each other to form what? Magnetic cords, like
Coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, are huge clouds of plasma and magnetic field occasionally thrown off by the sun. Scientists study them because the massive bursts pose a threat to space-based technology and even power grids on the ground. Within each CME lies a kernel known as a flux rope, tightly wound groups of magnetic field lines that can contain and transport solar material. Astronomers have seen them as the CME bursts off the sun, but they have been next to impossible to detect on the sun itself. New research using NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory has now shown that they can be seen in just one of its cameras, which shows the very hottest material on the sun. By watching a flux rope form and eject as a CME, the research has brought some closure to one long-standing mystery, whether ropes form before or during the CME's eruption. It's impossible to actually see the flux ropes, or any of the sun's powerful magnetic fields involved with CMEs and flares, because these fields are invisible. But scientists can map them by observing plasma trapped by these fields, which shows up as thin lines in extreme ultraviolet light. Since Earth's atmosphere naturally filters this UV light, scientists must observe it using telescopes in space, such as NASA's SDO, so there have been relatively few detailed observations of CMEs, particularly at higher temperatures. SDO images the sun at high image and time resolution. It is also the first satellite to consistently observe light with a wavelength of 131 angstroms, which highlights plasma at temperatures of around 10 million degrees. This wavelength is usually reserved for studying solar flares, but what NASA and Naval Research Laboratory scientists found is that the flux ropes associated with CMEs could only be seen at this temperature. On July 19, 2012, a CME erupted from the visible edge or limb of the sun. Because it was on the limb, the flux ropes were in profile and particularly visible. Even more important, the flux ropes appeared about 7 hours earlier in the same location. The ropes were visible as a line of figure eights that looked exactly the way theorists predicted they would. This is the first direct evidence that flux ropes form well before a coronal mass ejection. Footage of the CME from the SOHO spacecraft confirmed the presence of the flux ropes. By adding footage from the Stereo A spacecraft, which is viewing the sun from an entirely different angle, the researchers were able to create a three-dimensional picture of the flux ropes. For the most part, they follow the classic figure-eight pattern previously observed and predicted by solar models. But some of these ropes also had feet which extended farther away than scientists expected. This deviation from the models is interesting and requires further study. Besides showing proof of early flux rope formation, this study also paves the way for future flux rope and CME research by literally finding a new light to observe them in. The possibility of using flux rope formation as an early warning system for CMEs means that this line of research can have some very practical and far-reaching applications. And it can also help wrap up some of the long-standing mysteries of the sun.
Ropes being woven right into what? Strong threads. The enhanced field first reaches maximum strength at latitudes of about plus minus 40 degrees. As a result, sunspot formation tends to occur first at these latitudes. And this is from sourceangelfire.com. This is what they say. So they're telling you they send ropes of wool, right? But they calling it flocculi because they don't want to say that in basic English terms. So now these dudes have now identified the sun has wool hair. And then you got a race of people on the planet with wool hair, and they getting attacked all the time because what? We are from the African continent, where that's the land of the sun. Give me 1 second. So, anything you wanted to say on that before we move forward?
No, keep going, brother.
Okay. All right. Let me see. All right. Now here's another picture from June 4th, 1946. Now look at that. The hair of the Ethiopian black African race also can be called granulation, and you can see the same rope similarities. And this is a picture right here, and it looked like a slinky a little bit. You can see the little ropes and the twist, and this is a black and white picture that they took, so you can see that. Now look at this. This is in color. Same thing in color. You can see the ropes of hair. Now look at us. It's no way anybody can deny that. There's no way nobody can deny that. And the reason why our hair is able to kink, it means that it has to be a sun inside. You have to have heat within your genes in order for it to come up through your blood all the way up through your skull to make your hair kink up like that. The same way the sun has so much heat in itself that it turns into ropes and floats to the top. So this is just showing you on a basic level that we do come from the sun, and that's a scientific thing. That ain't pseudo at all. And they don't teach this stuff. I had to go deep to catch this information to find that. And this is what we got. Black people should love their hair and realize who they are. And all stars have this ropes of hair. For the record, all the stars have that. It ain't just our sun. Listen to Sound Right Reason. This also confirms the sun's prominence has coils on it, but the videos that they're releasing to the public doesn't show that. It's obvious it's being done to hide this from the black kinky haired people on planet Earth. Let's read another confirmed fact from the Nature book. Page 153 and 154 says about our great star called Superran Anu Non in noon science. Listen to reason. The flocculi on the surface of the sun are the hair of the sun, and it like spirals or springs as shown in figure 15 of this paragraph, also shown as a strand or grain of flocculus. And this is what the grain looks like. And that's what the scientists were saying was like grain, but it's like a spring. So they're not gonna, again, look at your hair and they what? It's a spring, a coil. So they know what's going on, but the information is returned. All right, it's the Ethiopian race has kinky hair because we inherited our hair flocculi from the sons who grew the universes, just like they said about Kepler, who rolled the sun across the sky. I got videos explaining that whole thing scientifically, and it answers why our great ancestors used the Kepler and the beetle and the rolling of the dung on such a smooth, great level. So whenever I get a chance to come back, I could play that and we could just talk, and you can add your hieroglyphic information to that to expound or to make it so much beautiful. All right. It said the sons who grew the universes by first growing themselves. It's like our ancients said about Kepler. And the writer repeats, the sons are self-created, self-grown by help of space and time, the laws and cycles of nature, plus suitable conditions. The origin number of the Ethiopian race is 999, and the solenoid, the solenoid in this paragraph, as shown here, is 3 nines united, one atop each other. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Listen to sound right, cosmic reason. Afro Unu, this is him, rest in peace. The messenger and writer Afro Unu for Nuwaupu said our sun has spirals on its surface. He wrote this particular book July 19, 1993, AD. 17 years later, scientists have confirmed that our sun has these spirals. Here's an article from December the 5th, 2013. All right, this is this article says a colossal spiral shaped flows of super hot plasma have been discovered on the sun. I'm gonna say that again. A colossal spiral. So that's, they talking about the wool, the flocculi, the solar flux ropes, right? Hot plasma have been discovered on the sun, completing a nearly 50-year quest to confirm their existence. Scientists say these giant solar plasma spirals, each of which is at least 60,000 miles, 100 kilometers wide, could help spark the formation of strongly magnetic regions on the sun that have been linked with solar flares and other sun eruptions, researchers added. The sun's eternal heat causes matter to rise to its surface, where the material cools near the cold of space and then sinks back downward. This cycle of motion is altogether known as convection, and zones where it takes place are known as convection cells. The rotation of the sun on its axis causes the great convection cells to form circular spiraling patterns. These are a lot like weather patterns seen on Earth, vortices that spiral and turn all over the place. Study patterns seen on Earth. Vortice that spiral and turn all over the place. Study author Lisa Upton, a solar scientist at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, told Space.com convection in Earth's atmosphere is ultimately driven by heat from the sun. The rotation of the Earth then makes convection air on Earth's spiral. I'm almost done, King. All right, now we're going to the sun's membrane and inner thermostat. Listen to sound right, cosmic reason. The internal heat or core of the sun is what Afro Unu call our sun's thermostat in noon science. Let us read. Verse 199 says, listen to reason. In addition, the suns of the universes of nature have natural membrane sensors within that work like natural thermostats. When natural ether in the magnetic field of a sun decreases in real strength and also degrees to a point lower than the thermostat, the sensor setting by the laws of nature, or netta, the sun involved in exhales more natural and mental ether, called prominence by mundane science and tongues of fire by philosophers into the sun's magnetic field from the oceans of ether within the sun that is already prepared for the purpose of bringing the ether strength of the sun back up to par or sufficient level in degrees in the magnetic field of the sun. The atmosphere immediately surrounding the body of a sun is called a chromosphere by mundane scientists, and the surface of the sun, they name it the photosphere. The suns are growers and controllers of the universe versus via space, matter, and time, plus the laws of nature, cycle of almighty nature. The eternal seal of infinite nature is the eternal circle of absolute nature. The biggest and outside circle in figure 13 of this caption, let it be remembered always and let it be known, end quote. Introduction to the Nature, book 1, page 153. Here Alpha Unu's drawing of our sun's thermostat versus the core, which is what mundane scientists call it. Let me see if I'm gonna make that a little bigger just so the audience can see. Let me know if it's coming through clear.
Yes, we can see, brother.
Okay. So on the left, this is what our sun looks like in the inside. He has air ducts, a blood brain, he has air, he has lungs, he has testicles. In the middle is his supreme brain and all that, because our ancestors said that our tomb had sperm and created, right? Didn't our ancestors say that?
Again, brother, created what?
That our tomb had sperm within him.
I'm not too familiar with that creation story. I'm familiar, you mentioned that word earlier, the Inya.
Yeah, but he
yeah. Go ahead.
In ancient Egypt, a tomb, alternatively spelled Tem, Timu, Tam, and Atem, was one of the early gods of Egyptian mythology, associated with creation and the Ennead of Heliopolis, a pantheon of 9 deities. Etymologically, his name denotes completion or ultimacy. A tomb was thought to represent both the self-gendering origin of the cosmos as well as the setting sun. Mythologically, he was most renowned as the father and mother of the gods. According to the Pyramid texts, a tomb was seen as a solitary, primordial living being who had arisen by his own force from the chaotic waters of Nun. Once he emerged onto the primordial mound, Bemben, he took it upon himself to create the cosmos, personalized as Shu, air, and Tefnut, moisture, and their children Geb, earth, and Nut, sky. To accomplish this feat, the monadic deity proceeded to lose his vital fluids, which were said to be spittle, mucus, or semen upon the waiting earth, which were said to be spittle, mucus, or semen upon the waiting earth, which were said to be spittle, mucus, or semen upon the waiting earth.
All right, Chimney Corner Peace in War Times. This is a drawing of what our ancestors was calling Atum. And again, as I was explaining earlier, when you bring this up to date, scientifically, it just confirms what our ancestors were saying. So here, Atum, which is the sun, and you see a penis, and then you see what our ancestors called, these are stars, these little 5-pointed little joints. This is the sun spitting forth the gods and stuff. But remember, all the stars are original. They are the physical and the first things to be born in existence, and then they create everything else. This is why, before I get to that, this is what the modern mundane scientists, they call this panspermia. Now this, they said it was a theory that microorganisms or biochemical compounds from outer space are responsible for originating life on Earth. That's what they call them. But back then they said it came from the hypothesis first proposed in the 5th century, BC, by the Greek philosophers Anaxagoras, that life exists throughout the universe. It is thought to be distributed by space dust, meteorites, asteroids, comets, planets, etc. But we know that they got this from our ancestors and tried to explain what they could not, and that's why it was always theories, because they didn't want to tell you where it come from. So when you go into Noon, right, this is a part of Sabiism, but this is when you go to the Nature of Nature books written by Afro Unu, right? This is what it said, right? Because you got the order first. The star representative, also known as Ripu the sun, the planet representative known as Jipu the earth, and then the satellite representative, also known as Sipu the moon, right? So when you get down here, it tells you right here, in the beginning were the suns, and the suns are with nature, right? And the suns are nature, and the suns, the true stars, are the gods, and grew absolute nature into universe order. All right? So when you go back to the picture, you can see this clearly, that it has penis there. And if you go back in the video, I show Shaka and Dugu Kemet that our star, as Afro Unu had put in there, has testes, right? But not a penis per se. And what the sun spits out of itself, prominence or solar or corona mass ejection, that right there is ejaculation of the sun. So every time y'all see the sun give off a CME, that's the sun ejaculating its prominence and energy and life onto all of the planets. Okay, that's how the sun solar wise ejaculates. I'm trying to keep it clean as possible, and our ancient ancestors knew this. So there you go, Atum, which represented the sun, with a penis giving birth to all of these stars. All right, tremendous common peace in wartime.
All right, so all of this stuff is being brought back up to par, because in our science, the Ennead or the Pasejet are the planets. It's the sun and the 8 other planets. Not Pluto's not a planet, or the Ennead or the Oni, and the sun is the father, and the planets are the wives. And these are the what they call the octoad plus the sun make 9. They don't add them in there, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the information that we have in Noon is updating all of this stuff, because nature updates itself every 2,000 years. So the human being doesn't go too far because of time lags, and then other races have to come up, and then we had to fall lower and lower because we gave culture to the whole planet. And because nature moves in opposites, and the more knowledge we gave and the more other races came up, we just end up at the bottom of the human totem pole. But now that nature has moved into what we call the sun cycle, and our ancients call Ma'at, that's when the suns start emanating out a certain kind of intelligence that comes to the black race, and we start to get our reasonability back. All right, so but this here is just showing you the inside of the male stars, or the true stars, and that's why they said that Kepler which is just another name for our sun, and even the bigger one, or the biggest sun in our galaxy, because these are titles for all the stars. It's not, Ray is not a personal name. All of the stars have these names or the title Ray or Ra or Kepri. But like I said, when we come back and talk about it, I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. So the fact that all the stars have to have testicles in order to create and then impregnate all of these planets, and these planets gave birth to these satellites. These moons are offsprings of the sun putting its ether and prominence into these planets to give birth to these satellites. But a lot of this information got lost in time, so they think that a lot of our stuff is mythology, but a lot of the science is in the mythology, not just the Memphite theology and stuff like that. Some of the myth have the science embedded in it, but you just have to know what you're looking for to be able to pull that out, which I did. All right, so listen to reason. The suns shown in this topic are definitely self-explanatory, except for how they function. Of course, there's a supreme brain is the grower and controller of the star and his or her surrounding. As given by shapes 18 and 19 in this topic, the main difference in the physical structure of the male and female stars are indeed the fact that males have testicles and the female stars have ovaries, and the male has an ejaculator. An ejaculator organ, where the female has a vagina organ which gushes or flows to her exterior. So this is a female star as he drew it, and one of those female stars in our solar system, we got three suns. We have Ra, the original sun, the true star. Then you have Jupiter and Saturn are suns as well, but they're females. And what they call in that the eye of Jupiter, that's her womb, and that's also where they get the where they drew the eye of Horus based off the way her eye is. But that's her womb. Saturn's womb is at the top. So all of these are stabilized as well. They help Ra in the original creation formulate and stabilize these planets as he did his great work in the beginning. That's why those stories, the creation stories, are so enamored with a lot of the work. And when they say Ra spoke or Ta Atum spoke and said this and did that, it was a lot. When you put it into scientific terms, it makes sense. But you're talking about thousands of years ago when these stories were handed down, and a lot of them just went into, mythology and mystery and stuff like that. But we got three suns in our solar system, and they don't want to tell nobody that. They operate a little different, but they still are stars because they made up of the same substance that our star has, which is helium and hydrogen. All right, instead of jutting it out into the universe gas field like the male star does, and of course, the female ether has male and female hormones and feminine enzymes in it than the male ether. All stars need oxygen for burning and hydrogen for glowing. See, our ancestors knew that the Ennead were the gods. That's why when I did a video called The Books of Utah Part 6 on the temple, the ceiling of the Dendera, they called those planets Horus and all of that. Mars, all of them are called Horus. Those are the gods, and they are the planets, and that's the zodiac, but they represent the constellations by these planets. So if you know a little bit about natal charts and the zodiac and all that stuff and how that stuff, or even tarot, all this information been split into different fractions. That's why we just so messed up, but they have to be put back together. But on the ceiling of the Dendera, you can look it up, because I used that in that video, and it called all of those planets Horus and Venus. All of them are called Horus and all of that. So they knew who they was talking about when they was talking about Amun Ra and all that stuff. They knew that was the sun, because in Noon science, those orbs are conscious. The moon is conscious. All of the planets are conscious and been communicating with human beings since the beginning. And we talking about millions of years. So a lot of this stuff that I'm saying now they was already talking about that back then. They just ain't found nothing that can relay it in that format. But how they wrote it in some of the text that I got, when we get back to it, you're going to say, okay, I see what you're talking about. All right. They get these elements via their air, lungs, and water stomachs. Stars need water, lots of water, and they obtain it via their water stomachs. Much of the water comes from the hydrosphere surrounding the universes. Remember they said the universe is water out there. They say it's mostly hydrogen out there, right? So this is what Afro calls the hydrosphere, because that's what you need. You need that for these stars, all these stars that are constantly burning. You just like a human being. If you talk for a long time, they say, and your voice starts to go, they say your voice gets what? Parched. And you have to what? Drink some water to cool it down so you can keep going. So it's the same scenario here. All right. As above, so below is such a great statement that when you apply it to yourself and us as a race, and the African race in particular, we definitely have more in common with the stars than the other races, and that's why they said that. All right. The hydrosphere, although most stars are very far distance from that humidity conditions called the hydrosphere or universe existence, right, or Nut. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, pages 43 to 44. Listen to reason. Listen to sound right reason. Afro stated all suns need water in this book, released February 27, 1995 AD, 25 years ago. Even further, 48 years ago in 1972 in the 9-ball count number 14 under the name Amenubi Ra'akapata. Number 34 says, when the planets orbit the sun and starts its eternal rotation around the 9-ball, the planet is a burning ball, and that ball burns and burns until that burning goes beneath the surface of the planet as a fire does in a burning coal. When the burning goes beneath the surface and the planet cools from its burning, the sun pushes the Earth's share of water into its orb's magnetic or gravitational field, and it begins to rain and rain and rain. All right, and that's because the sun is able to convert its elements from hydrogen to helium, and that's what the manipulation of the elements go from being water, and that's how the planets receive their water. Versus the scientists talking about Earth was hit with a planet, and that's how water got here. That's not true. The sun put water here. That's why the ancients knew that was the God of creation, because they understood that. All right, when the planet, okay, as this water goes beneath the surface of the planet and reaches the gases and chemicals in the earth, which are still burning, pressure begins to build up, and eventually the results are a series of tremendous, violent explosions, which sends parts of the earth into orbit around the planet. Then the sun, by the laws of nature, draws these parts together and grows these parts together by rain, water, and heat. End quote. Afro was way ahead of the science world once again. Let's look at one article, because now he's saying that the sun has water within it, right? Now look at this. This article I found. Look what it says. A star found shooting water bullets. This is the article. 750 light years from Earth, a young sun-like star has been found with jets that blast epic quantities of water into interstellar space, shooting out droplets that move faster than a speeding bullet. The discovery suggests that protostars may be seeding the universe with water. These stellar embryos shoot jets of material from the North and South Pole as their growth is fed by infalling dust and circles the bodies in vast disks. If we picture these jets as giant hoses and the water droplets as bullets, the amount shooting out equals 100 million times the water flowing through the Amazon River every second, says Lars Christensen, And again, our ancestors said what? That Ray came out of the what? The chaotic waters of Nun. So that means if the sun came out of water, it had to have water still in it, because that's what was there first. And what's left is the water that's around the universe, is what we call the universal skin. In Nun, our ancestors call it Nut. And I got the information for that too. So all of this stuff is showing you, this is the reason why Kemet is being attacked so much around the world, and especially over here in America. And those Arabs over there in Kemet is hiding a lot of this information and lying about what they're finding. But because the sun, who's the intelligent of all the Ennead, and again, when we get into more stuff, sound right reason being the leading mentality in these orbs, is the reason behind this knowledge being rewritten from 1967 all the way into the 90s. And that sparked me to write all the stuff that I'm doing, because of that living mentality that our ancestors knew about. All right, so I think this might be the end. Okay, this is the scientist here, a postdoctoral astronomer at Leiden University in the Netherlands. We are talking about velocities reaching 200,000 kilometers, 124,000 miles, end quote. All right, yeah, may this book help restore racial pride of the Ethiopian African race members everywhere we are found on planet Earth. Love your hair and let it be known. Truly the cause of peace in war times. All right, so that's the end of that. And I thank you, King Shaka. I appreciate it, allowing me to bring something to your audience.
No problem, brother.
So Shabazz was not permitted to stay in that area, so he took his family into the jungle of East Asia, which we now call Africa, to make a people close to nature. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this is the origin of kinky hair. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this is the origin of kinky hair. Because we didn't have kinky hair prior to that. The hair on our head was like the hair on our eyebrows. The hair on your eyebrows straight, the hair on your head is not the same as the hair on your eyebrow. But the hair of every other people is the same as their eyebrow. Your eyebrow straight, your hair something different. Wouldn't you like the hair on your head to be as straight as the hair on your eyebrow? That's why you so busy frying it. That's why you so busy pulling it. Because your nature tells you that the kink I mean, you know, with I'm black and I'm proud, we got to learn to be proud of kinks. Because most of your family of other black people on the earth, jet black. They didn't have no broad nose and thick lips and kinky hair. They didn't have no broad nose and thick lips and kinky hair. They were dark-skinned people, jet black, but they had straight hair, a thinner lip, a thinner nose, a thinner lip, a thinner nose. But we are marked as a different kind of black person. And we were rejected and despised, not only from the circle of the gods, but we were despised and rejected by all the other dark people of the earth. This is why today black people with kinky hair and broad nose and thick lips are rejected in every society. This is why today black people with kinky hair and broad nose and thick lips are rejected in every society. I want you to hear me well tonight. Yes, sir. Why are we rejected? Because the essence of beauty is in obedience and submission to God. And the essence of ugliness is when you rebel against God. And when you rebel against God, in your rebellion, you are marked with a certain mark of your rebellion, which is the disfigurement of your internal self, which manifests in the disfigurement of your external self. And this is why when you look at our people, wherever we are found on the earth, you find us either disfiguring ourselves physically, because we are disfigured on the inside because of rebellion.